Danielle, look at what I have.
So lucky.
It's here. And she's so beautiful.
She is.
I'm so excited. Our newest product, our newest little baby. We have so many babies together. Building out our family.
Should we count?
But building out our family, and our newest one, she is special. She is called Serene State. And I am so excited for this one. I'm always excited for all of them, but really excited for this one. This is something that I think is really going to help a lot of people, me included, but to just feel better and to feel happier in the world, which makes the world a better place.
I feel like this couldn't come at a better time. I think everyone I know is stressed out for some reason, whether it's financial stress, family stress, world stress. And Whit, you and I have been talking about this lately, but remembering that so much of what stress is the story we tell ourselves. And so we wanted to create a product that really kind of got to some of the underlying reasons why we might be telling ourselves stories that make us anxious and not serene.
And I want to dig into stress, and I want to hear about how you manage stress and get all of your great tips. But before we do that, I think we should tell the audience a little bit about Serene State and why they're going to love it too. So this is our brand new product. It is an anti-stress gummy. So really excited for this product. It has incredible actives in it that we'll dive into, but really, you just pop a couple of these gummies and it is a mood lifter, a stress reducer, a feel-good gummy.
So let's talk about some of the actives in these amazing gummies and exactly how they help you not just reduce stress, but really change the inner narrative, right? Because stress so much is the story we tell ourselves, like the anticipation of what's going to happen or what has happened. One of the actives is called Zembrin, and it's an extract from a South African plant that's been used for a very long time. And it does a couple things. It helps by acting as a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So it modulates your serotonin in your brain, which helps your brain not only cope with stress in the moment, but thinking about long-term how your brain reacts to neurotransmitters over time, which I think is just so interesting. And it's one of the reasons why Zembrin acts not only in the moment and quickly, but over a long period of time as well.
Right. So with these gummies, you take the recommended dosage, which is 2 gummies, and they are delicious, I must say. But you can take 2 of them and start feeling the effects in as little as 2 hours and start to feel kind of that more serene state. But also, they continue to work over the course of time, and you start to build it up in your body and start to gain the benefits of having this serenity over the course of time. So really, the full results are being started to see. You start to see the full results over the course of 2 to 6 weeks of this kind of sustained serene state where your stress levels are coming down and your mood is going up.
We called these Serene State because it's really like stress relief, but without sedation. Because I think there's also stress relief that kind of comes with this overwhelming calming effect. But this is actually stress relief with cognitive boost. So, when we're stressed out, our hormones are high, our cortisol high, we're in, fight or flight. And that means that we actually can't pay attention. Like studies have shown that when our brain is in that state, we have a hard time, recalling things, memory, recalling words, et cetera. We have a hard time focusing for long periods of time. And so the actives in this gummy really help kind of really heal your brain and balance out your neurotransmitter. It like affects the tone, like the impact of your neurotransmitters, and especially over time, so that you can really maintain that, executive function and like working memory, which is what we wanted for this product. We wanted something that would help you feel calm, but really alert because, we have night service if you're looking to have a calm, restful sleep. But this is really throughout your day if you're looking for a cognitive boost, but also feeling particularly stressed out.
We've talked over the years about the different forms of stress. You have physical stress. If you're not getting enough sleep at night, you definitely feel that physical stress on your body. Then you have emotional stressors and you have mental stressors. And I think that those ones are much more difficult to manage. You can always just take a nap and get that rest in. You know what you need to do. If you're not eating right and that's putting stress on your body, you can change your diet. But how do you manage that mental stress? And I think a lot of people will opt maybe for meditation, but some people have a really hard time with meditation or finding those kind of mental practices. And this really just helps to decrease that stress, that anxiety, and fear, that fear of what's going to happen, what's happening in the future. So that we can be in that place where we can really access the best of our brain. We can be in that best mindset, like you said, have that executive mindset, have that clear mind, so that we can be our best out in the world.
And also, I'd add that those stresses you just mentioned, or stressors, they're not in individual buckets, right? They impact every type of stress. So like if you're not eating well, that might, increase inflammation, which can then impact anxiety and stress, and even just like the narrative we're telling ourselves. And so the actives in here not only help balance kind of our neurotransmitters and like how much they impact our brain and like their kind of efficiency, but also we have other ingredients in there like L-theanine, phosphatidylserine as well. And both of those really help kind of regulate our cortisol, stress hormone regulation, and the impact that it has on our brain cells. Particularly phosphatidylserine helps the cells in our brain. It helps the cell membrane so that they can communicate more effectively and efficiently, because that cell membrane is deciding what messages are leaving our brain cells and what messages are coming in. And so it helps regulate that cortisol and stress hormone, which then in turn, as we talked about earlier, helps support our memory, our ability to focus, and also our ability to recover from, what some people call mental fatigue. But I also think it's like decision fatigue, like how many decisions you have to make in a single day.
Too many. And I think
exactly
something else that was interesting that you were talking about before when we were just chatting was how, I said that there's the physical stressors and the mental and emotional stressors. And you were saying, well, those mental and emotional stressors are physical as well. That those take a toll on your body. And, I just read this stat that 76% of US adults report experiencing health impacts due to stress.
I think it's probably number one.
Right? The number one killer, stress.
Just like number one detriment to our health is stress. And it's always underestimated. It's always the thing where it's like, yeah, I'll work on my stress. But first I'm going to make sure I eat perfectly and I meditate perfectly. And you're like, wait, that's adding stress. Like, remember what we always used to say, like in the early days when we, were like doing everything for Sakara, delivering ourselves. And then we'd try and fit in yoga and we'd have to like run to yoga. And I remember running to yoga with you. And then we get there and like, okay, now we're going to run and we got to be
already sweating before we even get there.
It's not that yoga didn't have a positive impact, but I guess the question is, was it net positive? Because if you're stressing on your way to health, I think we've missed, the boat. And I think that oftentimes stress gets put on the back burner to deal with because most of us are very good with coping, and some of us can be fueled by stress because it does increase those stress hormones that then make us act, make us do things. It's fight or flight. You gotta move quick. You gotta think quick. But we don't realize that actually when we are in our serene state, that is when we have our best cognitive function, when we can really make good decisions, when we can really act out of not even just like integrity for, in general, but integrity for that moment, because you might have more foresight, or you might be able to understand a circumstance differently than if you're in a stressful moment.
Yeah, I think I have my best ideas when I'm in a serene state.
In the shower?
In the shower where I don't have access to my technology or anything else, and I can just like be relaxing, washing my hair. I get great ideas. Or in Shavasana, in yoga, after I've done all that work and I'm finally in that moment of just relaxation, then I get the most downloads. Like I feel like I'm in the flow state when my mind is not stressed out. I can actually hear messages coming from God, the universe, my inner voice, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I'm feeling more in tune, more connected. And I think when I'm in that state, I feel more confident in my decision-making abilities and the choices that I make for myself and my future. And it just gives me so much more confidence and stability.
You can trust
that
those
mindset.
choices. Yeah. I mean, I think about what it means to make a decision out of a stressful moment. Like for anyone who hasn't listened to our Joe Dispenza podcast, that's really worth a listen.
Such a good one.
Because it really gets to this point, which is every thought you have, it doesn't matter where it comes from, it becomes biochemical the minute you have it. And so whether you're having thoughts about how you're going to be in service to someone later and it fills your body with oxytocin and, or somebody's giving you a hug, it becomes biochemical immediately versus if you're, worried about finances or you're worried about somebody getting home too late or whatever your worry is, that is biochemical as well. And I think we're much more apt to notice the oxytocin rush than we are to notice the fight or flight biochemical reaction to the stories we tell ourselves. And I would guess that most people on the planet need Serene State and might not even think of it as like,
the frog
I'm not
sitting
so
in the pot of boiling water.
Exactly.
We don't feel it. The heat keeps rising. The stress keeps rising. But we cope and we adapt. But it takes a toll.
Exactly. And if you're somebody who's been looking into meditation and haven't found it, like Serene State might be a really good kind of middle ground where it can help you get into a meditative state because L-theanine helps promote those alpha brain waves. And that's one of the other ingredients in our gummy. And so, if you're somebody who wants to get into meditation more, this could be a really nice way to help you find that space.
Yeah. And these are non-habit forming. It's a low dose, but the dosage is clinically studied and to be fast acting. It's clinically backed, and just like with all of our other products, these gummies are completely clean. There's no added sugars in them. They're delicious, easy to take. They come in these great little pouches that you can just throw in your bag, kind of similar to our Metabolism Bites packaging. So really easy and convenient. I will say that, a lot of clients have asked us, how many Metabolism Bites can I eat in a day? Because they are so delicious that they end up eating more. And with those ones, it's okay to eat more. But with these ones, you want to just stick to the 2. They're super active and you just eat 2 a day and they get to working on reducing those stress levels so that you can feel good and feel in that state of clarity of mind. Another thing I was going to say was, I remember in our early days when we were doing photo shoots or content or recording for TV, like this one time when we had a TV reporter come into our office and we were shooting, and I was so nervous. And that nervousness it takes over where you can't think clearly. And then you come out, sounding not as intelligent as you actually are. You don't say the things that you really are wanting to say. And I wish that I had a Serene State gummy in those days where I could calm my nervousness, but it's an alert state of serenity. These are not like, oh, let me just calm you down by sedating you and making you drowsy. This is just helping your brain relax.
That's cognitive health.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's making you, actually supporting your brain so that you can be your best without that nervousness and stress.
And by the way, you guys, I think the history of, where Zembrin comes from, the main active ingredient here is from this plant in South Africa that we talked about. It's called Kana, and it's mostly found in the Cape region. And, some archaeological evidence shows it's been around for thousands of years amongst the Khoisan people who were hunter-gatherers. So what they would do is they would harvest it, they would ferment it, and then they would chew on it. And what they used it for, they would use it in shamanic rituals. But they called it the thing that, quote, takes away fear and brings cheer, which I think is just so beautiful. And they talked about how they would use it for, these are obviously our words and our translation, but, relieving fear, reducing anxiety, and then promoting social bonding and deepening trance states, which is what, we've been talking about today. It's like, you're like what Whit was saying, where like you're, gonna go on television or speak in front of people, or maybe, you have social anxiety, or maybe you're looking to deepen your, I'm using air quotes here, your trance states or your meditative states. I just love that this plant, one, has been used for so long. We always say plants are medicine, but also that it is still so needed, or maybe even more needed today in what kind of like our modern state of living is right now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are looking for alternatives to alcohol, that for years people have been numbing themselves with alcohol to reduce that stress, come home from work and pour themselves a drink or whatever it might be. And I don't, that's fine. Everybody can choose what they want. But I think having alternatives is important to have, and especially non-habit forming alternatives. So I think it's another great option to have out there that does support that human connection, right? Mm-hmm. That it's reducing that stress so that we're able to connect. And I think it could be great in relationships as well. Especially if you need to have a hard conversation with somebody, an intimate conversation, talk about your needs or your wants or your desires in a relationship, that can be difficult. And so if you can take down that stress and remove the fear, I think it can help us progress in our lives and our relationships in a really powerful way.
Yeah, and I do just want to add that the Zembrin that we're sourcing, it is endorsed by the South African Sound Council, and they share in the proceeds of the ingredient sales. So that felt important too. Like we're borrowing their technology and using it for modern day, very big needs.
Indeed.
My kids lately have been asking for stories at bedtime, and I will read to them for an hour, but sometimes when it's your own stories or you have to make up a story, it's the need for I should take one of these gummies and have some executive kind of cognition in that moment. But I'm usually tired and I'm like, oh, the story. And also, I don't have a ton of memories. Like, this way. You'll be like, oh, remember so-and-so from high school? No. I just I just let it all go, But especially my 7-year-old has been asking for more stories. And she has been really she hasn't experienced it firsthand, but she's seen rejection a couple times lately. And so I was trying to, instead of teaching a lesson, I was like, let me just try and think of times I felt rejected. And so I told her this story where we were in high school and I was dating this older guy who's I don't know, he was 18, but he was out of high school. And we must have been sophomores or junior, I don't remember. And a lot of the older girls in our high school were not happy that I was dating. And I don't know how you got caught up in this storm with me, but you did. And we went to this house party and we show up and there's a sign on the door
with our names on it.
Whitney and Danielle are not allowed to come inside. And when I tell you, my daughter, she was at the edge of her seat. She's like, and then what did you do? She just like couldn't imagine that one could like get past that kind of rejection. And I was like, you know what Whit and I did? We went in.
We walked in the door.
We walked in that door and we handled that rejection, dealt with our, I tend to be, I think, more of an introvert than you are, but dealt with our social anxiety and really wish I would have had one of these gummies. But I think, that kind of, I've been noticing the stress that this narrative of rejection has on my 7-year-old, even though it hasn't happened to her. And so I just thought of this. I was telling her this story last night. I was like, it's so funny. We were recording this podcast today about stress and Serene State. And I was like, this is one of those moments where I feel like that was probably a very stressful moment in time. And just remembering, this is beside the point of this product, but remembering how you get through it. One, we had each other. And two,
that was helpful.
It was helpful, but also and I was telling my daughter this, you can either choose to agree with other people's story of you, or you can choose to not agree and be kind back. And so I don't know who wrote that thing on the door. I don't know which one of those girls it was. It didn't matter. It's like I walked in, I'm not going to be mean to anyone. I'm not going to try and figure it out. It's just, I was telling her, I was like, usually when people are mean, there's a reason that it's not really about you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my TED Talk on parenting.
I loved it. Thank you for sharing that life lesson with us. And also just that lesson of, how can we put aside what other people think and not let them hold us back from the things that we want to be doing in life, from our path in life.
Because we really are just agreeing with their story. If you and I had not gone in, it's like, okay, we agree with your story that we're not allowed. We agree with, and it's like, I don't want to partake in your story. And having the wherewithal to choose that, I feel grateful that we had it in that moment. I'm sure there were other moments we didn't, but
yeah. I mean, I thought you were going to tell one of the many stories of being rejected by investors, who wanted to pat us on the head like we're little girls with a cute little business that maybe their wife would be interested in. I mean, there have been lots of moments of rejection and lots of moments of then, after being rejected, needing to stand back up and go again and expect a different outcome, which isn't that the definition of insanity, when you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome? But
maybe.
But I think that, having a tool in your toolkit, like the Serene State gummies, can help to reduce those fears of the future outcome so that those fears don't need to become your reality, so that you can make your reality what you want it to be and have clear thoughts, just like you were saying from the Joe Dispenza conversation about our thoughts become our reality. So are you allowing your brain to be filled with thoughts of fear and anxiety of the future? Or are you taking control and setting those thoughts of the future that you envision for yourself?
Yeah, it's almost like we should have called these meditation in a bottle.
I love that. Trademark it. TM, put it on the box. I am really excited for these to be out in the world because, like we talked about, stress, it affects our physical bodies in so many different ways. It affects our mentality, which then affects our future and the world we create for ourselves. And it affects our relationships and how we interact with those around us. And so I just think these are going to be so helpful to people, and I can't wait to hear what they think about them. So the flavor is wild berry, which is basically mixed berries, strawberries, just really tasty, delicious, berry forward. And like we said, sugar-free, 0 grams of sugar in these. So they're not those overly sweet, sugary types of gummies. Our gummies are a sophisticated gummy. They're a great texture too. They're not too squishy. I think we have the best gummies that exist in the gummy market.
Agreed.
And what better way to take a supplement than in a delicious little gummy bite? All right. Wishing you all peace and serenity
and cognitive
Serene
function.
State.